Fun stuff. Anatomy. Surface anatomy. You should be familiar with this. Now, spinal cord starts when the brainstem protrudes through the foramen magnum, which is that hole in the occipital bone. That's where the brainstem starts, or the spinal cord starts. It does not go all the way down to the bottom of the sacrum. It actually ends about L1, L2. But what we do have in that vertebral cavity from L2 down to the sacrum there is a whole mass of spinal nerves that come off of the lumbar region and travel down very nicely, very organized to wherever they need to be. And what do we call that? Cauda equina. Latin for horse's tail. I believe it's Latin. I don't think it's Greek. Cauda means tail, equina means horse. And if you ever get a chance to take a gross anatomy course dissecting a human, do it. You may be a little hesitant at first, but I tell you, it's amazing to see all this stuff that we're talking about. You know, we have really nice models here, and they serve their purpose well. Cats and pigs, it's a whole nother story, but to see this in a human is amazing. I saw cauda equina when I took my gross anatomy class a few years ago, and it's really quite striking, quite beautiful, the way that these fibers are just all running in these parallel directions. It's very well organized. It's just really neat to see. Anyhow, so that's that. Now, the cauda equina branches off a part of the spinal cord that's kind of thickened and enlarged, called the lumbar enlargement. In fact, any place on the spinal cord where you have a significant number of nerve fibers that are branching off to form groups of spinal nerves, like we have here, you have an enlargement. So up here in the cervical region, we have another one, a cervical enlargement. And the cervical enlargement is going to contain a lot of nerves that then feed into the neck and up into the head and then down into the arm and shoulder areas. And what we'll see on Monday is that a lot of these fibers then converge together to form nerve plexuses, which you should be familiar with that term. Okay. We have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. We mentioned that the other day. 31 pairs of nerves that branch off of the spinal cord, and they protrude between the vertebrae. And that's where our peripheral nervous system starts, is with those spinal nerves. What is the opening that those spinal nerves pass through? In fact, if you take two vertebrae and pull them apart, that opening disappears. The intervertebral foramen. When you put two vertebrae together, you get this little opening. And that's what the spinal nerves protrude through. What else? You probably saw in the models that the lumbar region kind of tapered to a cone or a point. That's called the medullary cone or the conus medullaris. And that's part of where we find all of these spinal nerves of the cauda equina kind of coming from as well.
Is that like right at the sacrum?
No, you're not really seeing it on this picture. Let me double check the book, but no, we're not. I don't think we're seeing it there. No, it looks like it, but it's not. It's actually going to be right up in here. Kind of comes to that point and taper, and that's part of the place where all these nerve roots begin. Now we have this region up in here that's kind of relatively thin, that really only has one nerve per level, per vertebrae coming off, and that is the thoracic region. And we'll talk specifically about these different regions and these spinal nerves here on Monday. But that's the thoracic. So we have cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral regions, just like we have cervical, thoracic, lumbar vertebrae, and then vertebrae that are fused together to form the sacrum and coccyx bones. What does the spinal cord actually pass through on the vertebrae? What structure of the vertebrae, or what non-structure structure? Vertebral foramen. You have the intervertebral foramen. You have the, what did I just say? Intervertebral? You have the vertebral foramen. You have the intervertebral foramen when two vertebrae are put together. And then you can have something like this.